Well, it's Valentine's Day, and you know what I love? I love helping people navigate the federal bureaucracy. Stick around, and that's what we're going to talk about this week. But first, good evening, Agile acquisition enthusiasts. Welcome back to the Underground Digital Tiki Bar. It's Friday night, and that means it's time for another episode of Agile Acquisitions and Alcohol. So cheers. All right, it is Valentine's Day. Love is in the air, and federal bureaucracy is still crushing as far as acquisitions go. And so anytime we can get a little bit of a win, it feels great. And I had a wonderful experience recently of talking to someone who just had this really interesting challenge. They had a great product. They were the only one who was building it, only person who could deliver it. And they really just wanted to get it in the hands of the users and didn't even care if they got paid. And you know what? It's really hard to give things to the federal government for free. And you know why that is? Because the federal government is afraid of a little something called the Anti-Deficiency Act, which basically means they're afraid that if you give them something and you come back later, you're going to ask for them to pay for it. And if they don't have the money actually appropriated for it, they are in violation of the ADA, or the Anti-Deficiency Act. That is a major no-no. So one way to get around that, especially with software or services, is a gratuitous service or software or product agreement, which basically the offerer promises that never will they ever come back and give a bill for something that they let the government use for free. But one thing is really interesting. It is actually harder to give the government something for free than it is to actually get them to pay for it sometimes. It's difficult because a lot of people aren't used to it. People feel like there's something wrong happening, so they're afraid to push things forward. And sometimes it's really just a matter of if the government isn't putting money against something, then there's just really no incentive or measurement to make sure they're getting anything out of it. Whereas when they've spent taxpayer money, rightfully so, they're actually trying to make sure that something good is coming from the use of that money. And so that goes the same sense as like CRADAs, or cooperative research and development agreements, is another way you can work with the federal government for no exchange of money, but exchange of resources. They're a great opportunity to kind of get in with the users and deliver, but they're very difficult to get the user to actually engage with because there's really not that commitment. So then there's all sorts of other pathways that I was telling this company that they could use. You know, they could potentially look for a sole source justification under FAR 6.302, probably -1, only one responsible source. But then there's lots of hoops that have to jump through, like publishing and the government point of entry, and it's a lot of paperwork, and just some contracting officers try to shy away from those. And I guess as they should when it makes sense, but of course they should also use it when it makes sense. That's why they're there. And then there's some other options. There's OTA, there's direct award OTA, so you could do like a sole source, even a very low dollar amount. But then as we were talking, I said, you know, if what your real interest is just sort of getting in front of your user, and money, while important down the road, is not really a concern of yours right now, what I'd really recommend is a micro purchase acquisition. Micro purchase threshold, which is up to $10,000. It can be done with a government purchase or a government P card. It's a pretty easy acquisition, and the great thing is there's almost no rules, so the government can just do a micro purchase to just about anybody without any kind of additional justification. Now it is a cumulative, so you can't do like a monthly reoccurring $10,000. It's a cumulative $10,000 limit, but it's a real easy way to get the government to commit a little bit of money. So they do have buy-in, they do have some skin in the game of the acquisition, but more importantly, it gets you that all access pass, because now you're under contract and you have the right to move around and work with the government without any concerns of, you know, potential gratuitous services or inappropriately influencing future activities. So there you go. I thought it was a pretty cool story. I was really happy it worked out for them. I'm not naming the company because I didn't talk to them first, and I don't know if they'd want their personal business being shared. But it was really cool to hear that it helped them. Maybe it'll help some of you out there, so that's why I'm sharing it. And if you have questions, or if you have similar stories or other ideas, put them below in the comments. If you like this and it was helpful, give me a thumbs up. As always, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And most importantly, keep innovating. And until next week, cheers.